Good afternoon. My name is Tim Lynch. I'm your host of Legal Lines. Legal Lines is brought to you by the Massachusetts LGBTQ Bar Association, and we welcome your calls. Our number here is 617-708-3290. Again, 617-708-3290. And as I already mentioned, the program is brought to you by the Massachusetts LGBTQ Bar Association, and my guests here today are the co-chairs of the Massachusetts LGBTQ Bar Association, and that's my good friend Rolando Medina and my other good friend Elizabeth Roberts. How are you guys?
Great, Tim. Thanks for having us.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourselves, let our audience know, what you do and what brought you to the Mass LGBTQ Bar Association. Elizabeth.
So I am a probate and family law litigator at the law firm of Todd & Weld in downtown Boston. I reside in Arlington, Massachusetts with my wife and my twin girls, and I've been there, been here in Boston for approximately 9 years after graduating from Suffolk. And I was looking in my career for a way to connect with other LGBTQ attorneys and to have that community within my professional life. And that was how I discovered the Bar Association and focused my efforts when I first joined on the family law practitioners and was very active in the family law section before joining the board.
That's great. And then, Rolando, you were here last year.
Yes, so I had the pleasure of being on your show last year. I'm Rolando Medina. I'm a patent attorney specializing in biotechnology patents. I work at the firm of Choate Hall & Stewart downtown. I have been in Boston for about 9 years myself. I went to law school out of state, and so when I moved to Boston, I moved to start working as an attorney. And I joined the Bar Association, again, as Elizabeth said, for the same reasons, to really connect with other LGBTQ attorneys and also try to figure out ways that I could contribute to this community.
That's great. We'll get into that in a second, but let's start off with LGBTQ. Let's tell the public exactly what does that stand for. And we did have a name change a few years back from the Massachusetts LGBT. I don't even remember the proper name.
It used to be the MLGBA, right? The Mass Lesbian and Gay and Bisexual Bar Association. A couple of years ago, we were looking at our membership and figured that we wanted to be a little more inclusive of everybody who is in our community. And so now we are the Mass LGBTQ Bar Association. I know it's a lot of letters, but it's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer.
Yeah, so we include everybody.
Yes.
Which is great. And so that gets us you've already mentioned it a little bit, but what the underlying purpose of the Bar Association is. To represent the rights of all people in the LGBTQ community.
I would say that that's very true, and to focus on serving the LGBTQ legal community in particular. We provide not only an educational outlet for our members, but also ways to socialize and network with other attorney members as well. We offer mentoring and highly specialized sections that are focused on a particular practice area. So it's a way for someone to become involved with the wider community as well as with perhaps their smaller specialty within the legal profession. Some of the outreach that we do doesn't just impact attorneys, it also impacts general members of the public, such as Legal Lines is a great example of outreach we do to for the community as a whole. And one of the things that I know that our Bar Association is particularly proud of is that we are a statewide bar organization that serves the LGBTQ legal community, not only on the eastern half of the state, but north, south, and west as well. We have representatives out in Western Mass. We have a Western Mass board member, and we hope to expand our presence in Western Mass, but are proud to say that we've always had a presence there.
Yeah, we certainly have a Christmas party there every year as well,
We do.
which is well attended,
It is.
which goes to show how popular our organization is out there. But we do also a lot of things for the community. Isn't that right, Rolando?
We do. Well, I mean, I think some of the things that we do are, for example, we have, in addition to these committees and sections, we have last year established a couple of what we call task forces to really look at some of the key issues. And a couple that we decided to focus on were, first, the issue of the military. Now, with the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, I mean, we were all very happy that that happened. But there is actually still ongoing discrimination against transgender individuals from serving in the military. We have a task force that has been in the process of looking at that issue, trying to come up and understand what the military and government justification for that discriminatory policy is, and then also make some recommendations for how to go forward and argue for reversing that policy. The second task force is really looking at LGBTQ youth, and more specifically at the numbers of LGBTQ youth in the courts and criminal justice system. There is a disproportionate number of youth who are in the criminal justice system that identify as LGBTQ, and so we are looking into that and how to break that pattern and hopefully reverse that.
Yeah, I'm actually proud to say I'm on that task force, and I think anybody who lives in downtown Boston has noticed an increase in young people who are homeless, and it's rather shocking when you read these statistics of, Boston Globe has said 20% of the unaccompanied homeless youth are self-identify. In Massachusetts, it's LGBTQ, whereas other companies that did a more sophisticated statistical analysis found it at 34.5%. And unfortunately, the social safety net for these children isn't there.
Right.
You have homeless shelters that unfortunately have a strong religious component, and unfortunately, they are either not welcoming or the youth do not want to go there. So they hit the streets, and then they hit the criminal justice system, and they hit the family courts, the care and protection cases, the juvenile courts. So the task force was created to create protocols and training for the court system, probation officers, social workers, on how to interact with this rather large percentage of youth coming into the court system who are LGBTQ youth. It's alarming and it's shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, it's very sad that these protocols weren't already there. I was rather taken aback that they weren't, but nonetheless, now they're being implemented. They've been created, and the process is ongoing. But it's a very sad statement of our society that we have these children. But then again, you get back to your original point. That is the purpose of the Massachusetts LGBTQ Bar Association, to deal with these legal issues and to help the community and at least make the community a better place.
Right. Well, I mean, one of our mission statements is also, or involves, looking at civil rights in general, but more specifically tailored to the LGBTQ community. And a case in point is the recent repeal of DOMA case that came down by the U.S. Supreme Court over the summer. We were involved and signed on to an amicus brief to, argue that, DOMA is discriminatory and should be repealed. And certainly we're following up on that. And Elizabeth can talk a little bit more about this specifically, but we are going to have some panels to address some of the issues.
Before we get into that, though, you did mention we signed on to an amicus brief, and just generally, what is an amicus brief?
So an amicus brief is usually an invitation by the court, or a party can decide that they have a vested interest in the outcome of a case. A court can solicit an amicus brief to help flesh out some issues that may not have been properly or thoroughly put forth by the parties actually in that piece of litigation. And so that is, it's called a friend of the court brief. And that's what it is.
And we get involved in that because obviously it affects our community at large.
Right.
And obviously we did in this case, and now that we have a wonderful decision, it's getting that decision implemented, and that's where you come in.
That's right. So each year we're asked to sign on to numerous different briefs, and we pick and choose those carefully. We have a committee specifically designed to look at those briefs and make recommendations to our board of directors about which briefs to sign on to. Certainly the DOMA decisions were monumental in the LGBTQ community. And they have significant impacts on a significant impact on a wide variety of areas of the law. So I'm happy to announce that we are partnering with the Massachusetts Bar Association in setting up some post-DOMA panels. Stay tuned. We will be scheduling those in the near future. In addition, we are pleased that we have a partnership with the Massachusetts Bar Association to provide educational panels several times a year in the future. But certainly the DOMA decisions impacted everything from probate and family law to potentially employment law to taxation. So it's a very far-reaching decision, and one that we have members that are certainly able to speak to those impacts, to educate not only their fellow attorneys on how to treat this decision in their practices going forward, but also to the community at large, to things to look out for how this impacts their day-to-day life. For instance, for many people, the way that you're able to file your tax returns, and how that impacts the amount of taxes you pay to the federal government. It's something that we all face each year. Everybody pays the piper,
Unfortunately,
right?
yes.
So the DOMA decision directly impacts that ability for a military spouse, the spouse of the military member, to have access to bases and to receive the benefits that all other military spouses receive, was impacted by the DOMA decision. I do understand that different states and bases in different states are treating that differently, but here in Massachusetts, certainly our Massachusetts military members who are married to a same-sex partner can now rest assured that their partner will be treated equally. So these are very basic, everyday rights that many people take for granted.
Yeah.
Which we are now pleased to say that members of our community have access to those benefits, as well as we have an entire legal community who's willing to help you achieve those benefits.
You've been watching Legal Lines. Legal Lines is brought to you by the Massachusetts LGBTQ Bar Association. My guests here today are the co-chairs of that association, and if you have a question, please feel free to call in. Our number here is